The moment the airplane wheels kissed the runway at Suvarnabhumi International Airport, Keanu Reeves felt a strange tightening in his chest, a quiet instinct he had learned never to ignore. The cabin lights brightened softly as the captain welcomed everyone to Bangkok. But Keanu's mind was already somewhere else, sensing an atmosphere far heavier than humid night air. He stepped out of the plane into a flood of neon reflections bouncing off polished airport floors. Travelers hurried in every direction, laughing, dragging suitcases, rushing toward connecting gates. But even in the chaos, the world around Keanu felt unnaturally quiet, as if the noise existed on the surface, but something deeper was waiting. Fans recognized him almost instantly. "Keanu, photo please!" "My hero, one picture!" Smiling politely, Keanu stopped for a few selfies, greeting people with his usual gentle warmth. But while he posed, his eyes kept scanning the crowd. He wasn't looking for trouble. He was looking for that feeling again, the one whispering danger into the back of his mind. And then he saw it. A group of uniformed men stood near the far wall. Not Thai airport police, not security. Their posture was too stiff, too professional. Their eyes weren't curious, they were calculating. They weren't watching the crowd, they were watching him. Keanu's heart slowed. His instincts sharpened. He had seen that stance before. Men trained to move as one, to follow unseen orders, to remain shadows until the moment they were needed. He pretended not to notice. Instead, he walked toward baggage claim, trying to blend into the river of passengers. But the feeling followed him, growing heavier with each step he took. Something was wrong, and not the usual kind of wrong that came with fame. A strange announcement echoed overhead. "Attention all passengers. Terminal 3 immigration checkpoints are temporarily closed. Please remain in your current area." Passengers groaned around him, confused, irritated, unaware of the true reason behind the shutdown. Keanu stopped moving. There, just beyond the glass overlooking the tarmac, an unfamiliar American police jet was taxiing toward the restricted military gate. Its sleek black surface reflected the airport lights like a predator sliding in under cover of night. "What the hell?" Keanu whispered. He knew that jet. Or rather, he knew who usually flew in jets like that. People connected to deep-level government operations, covert agencies, black-budget missions. People who didn't appear unless something massive had gone wrong. And they were coming here, for him. As the jet came to a stop, a set of stairs rolled up to its door. Out stepped a tall woman in a dark tactical uniform. A black female police officer with an expression colder than steel and eyes sharp enough to cut through the glass. She scanned the airport interior until her gaze locked onto him. Keanu felt the moment like a physical force. Keanu tried to move casually, but his instincts were screaming now. Quiet, steady warnings he had spent years learning to trust. Something in the atmosphere had shifted. The airport crowd still buzzed around him, but the energy felt different, as if every noise was layered over a silent pressure rising beneath the surface. He adjusted the strap of his backpack and stepped into the long corridor leading toward immigration. Neon reflections danced over the glossy tiles, but he could feel eyes on him, persistent, focused, following every move. He glanced sideways. There they were again. 4 men in dark uniforms, standing perfectly still near a currency exchange counter. They didn't pretend to look busy. They didn't blend in. They watched him the way hunters watch a target they've already marked. Their shoulders were squared, their hands near their belts, not touching weapons, but close enough to reach them instantly. Keanu's brows tightened. They weren't tourists. They weren't airport staff. And they definitely weren't here for a simple security check. He turned his head away, pretending to study a departure board. But out of the corner of his eye, he saw one of the men lift a hand to his ear, receiving instructions from someone unseen. Someone close. Someone watching the same crowd from a higher vantage point. Keanu's heart thudded once, loud and heavy. He slowed his pace, blending behind a family dragging neon-colored suitcases, using their movement as brief cover. The father was arguing about tickets, the mother juggling two crying children, completely unaware that an international operation was unfolding 10 feet behind them. Keanu ducked slightly, moving with the flow of people. His steps were calm, calculated. He had no idea why foreign officers were following him, but he knew one thing for certain. If they wanted to make this public, it was serious. If they wanted to make it quiet, it was deadly. He kept walking. But then, something changed in the air again. A flash of movement above. He looked up and saw them, silhouettes on the glass balcony overlooking the main hall. Two more officers scanning the area with tactical precision. They weren't searching the crowd in general. They were triangulating, pinpointing, tracking. Keanu. The feeling hit him like electricity. The net was already around him. The crowd noise faded from his mind. Everything slowed. His footsteps, his breathing, the distant rolling of luggage wheels, sound flattened into a single pulsing tone in his ears. And then from behind, footsteps, heavy, synchronized, approaching with certainty. Keanu turned just enough to see two of the dark uniformed men breaking away from their post, moving toward him with deliberate steps. "Sir," one of them called. His voice wasn't hostile, but it wasn't friendly either. It was the voice of someone who didn't ask, they instructed. Keanu didn't respond. Not yet. He scanned the corridor ahead, blocked. Behind him, closing in, the airport lights dimmed for a split second, barely noticeable to travelers, but more than enough for Keanu to feel the tension snap tighter around him. The officers who had been circling him suddenly straightened, their earpieces buzzing with new orders. Something big had just been green-lit. The woman from the balcony descended the staircase with slow, deliberate steps, each one echoing across the terminal like a judge entering the courtroom. People in the crowd stopped mid-conversation, sensing the shift in energy even if they didn't understand it. She didn't rush. She didn't need to. Her authority filled the space before she even reached the floor. When she stepped into the main hall, her presence was unmistakable. Agent Mariah Collins, a high-ranking U.S. federal operations commander with a reputation whispered about even in elite law enforcement circles. Sharp jawline, hair pulled tight, eyes so focused they seemed to cut through the air itself. Two more agents appeared behind her. American agents, not Thai, dressed in tactical uniforms with no unit patches, the kind worn by those who operate in the shadows. Keanu's pulse slowed to a cold, steady beat. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't airport security. This was an international-level operation. Agent Collins stopped 10 feet from Keanu. The officers around him formed a tight perimeter, creating a silent box that prevented anyone from passing through. Travelers pulled out their phones, some recording, some confused, some whispering. Is that Keanu Reeves? Why is he being surrounded? Those aren't Thai police. The situation was escalating fast, becoming a spectacle. Keanu kept his voice calm. Is there a problem? Agent Collins didn't smile. She didn't blink. Keanu Reeves, she said, her voice cutting through the hall like a blade. You are to remain still. You're being taken into protective federal custody. He raised an eyebrow. Protective custody? I don't need protection. Her expression didn't change. That's not up to you. Keanu took a slow breath. Then at least tell me what this is about. Agent Collins stepped closer, her boots striking the floor in perfect rhythm. You're involved in an ongoing interagency investigation. You will be transported to a secure location for questioning in the United States, effective immediately. He stared at her, stunned but not frightened. Involved how? I just arrived in Thailand. I haven't done anything. She tilted her head slightly, studying him with unnerving intensity, the way a surgeon studies the incision point before cutting. Your presence is connected to a missing artifact of national security importance, she said, and someone wants you off the board, fast. Keanu's jaw tightened. I don't even know what you're talking about. Immediately, one of her agents stepped forward, reaching for Keanu's arm. Agent Collins raised her hand. Halt. Not yet, she ordered. He comes with us, but without force. The moment Keanu opened his mouth to respond, the entire airport seemed to shift into another reality. A low warning siren vibrated through the air, soft at first, then escalating into a sharp, echoing alarm that sliced across the terminal. Neon lights flickered overhead, screens glitched, and a deep mechanical hum rolled through the structure like the airport itself had taken a breath. Then a voice boomed over the PA system. "Attention all passengers. Terminal 3 is entering immediate lockdown. Please remain in your current location." Gasps rippled across the hall. The crowd froze. Phones lifted instantly into the air. Keanu felt the atmosphere crystallize around him. The Thai security guards stationed at the far gates were suddenly ordered aside as if someone had overridden local authority. Metal shutters began sliding down over the exits, slow, heavy grinding barriers that sealed the lounge, the corridors, the escalators, and every path out of the terminal. Bangkok's busiest airport was shutting down, not for a threat, but for him. The 4 officers who had been tailing him earlier spread out like a tightened net, their stance stiffening as they blocked any approach to Keanu. Travelers trapped behind their positions panicked. Why are the gates closing? Is this a terror alert? What's happening? Nobody had answers. Agent Mariah Collins didn't flinch as alarms blared. Her expression remained carved from stone, her focus locked on Keanu. The shutdown didn't surprise her. She had ordered it. She lifted her wrist and spoke into a thin, high-tech comm band. "Section A lockdown confirmed. Begin phase Delta. No civilian interference." Her words weren't loud, but they rippled across her squad with deadly precision. 3 more American agents appeared from a service hallway, carrying black tactical cases. They moved like a special forces team, silent, disciplined, efficient. Keanu's pulse ticked up. This wasn't a police arrest. This was a military-grade extraction. "Locking down a whole terminal?" Keanu muttered. "This is overkill." Agent Collins stepped closer until she was only a couple feet away, eyes cold, confident, and unblinking. "You don't grasp the scale of the situation," she replied. "If you did, you'd be asking for more security, not less." The crowd's panic intensified as the final security shutters slammed shut with a thunderous clang. Metal barriers sealed the windows. Armed guards patrolled the top level. No one was allowed in or out. Trapped inside, passengers watched wide-eyed as a high-ranking foreign officer confronted one of the world's most famous actors. Every phone was recording. Every whisper was amplified by fear. Keanu remained calm, but his muscles tensed subtly. A trained readiness, a quiet calculation. "What exactly are you accusing me of?" he asked. 2 agents moved behind Keanu. 2 moved beside him. The last one stepped forward with handcuffs glinting under the flickering lights. The terminal was a pressure cooker now, sealed, tense, humming with fear and confusion. Every traveler stood frozen, pressed against railings or clutching suitcases, staring at the unbelievable scene unfolding in front of them. Keanu Reeves, surrounded.
Locked in.
About to be arrested in a foreign country by American officers. Phones were already raised everywhere, capturing every second. Live streams flashed across screens. Tourists whispered his name in disbelief.
Is this real?
"They're arresting Keanu Reeves?"
What did he do?
Agent Mariah Collins didn't care about any of it. She stepped directly in front of Keanu, her face inches from his, her posture radiating authority so sharp it could cut glass. "Keanu Reeves," she stated loudly, projecting her voice across the silent terminal, "you are being taken into federal custody under emergency international authority." Her announcement hit the crowd like a shockwave. People gasped. Some cried out. Some pushed forward to record more clearly. Keanu held her stare. He didn't fight. He didn't shout. But his expression sharpened with controlled disbelief. "You still haven't told me why," he said. Agent Collins signaled her team. 2 American officers approached him from behind. Their movements were swift, precise, and rehearsed. One reached for Keanu's wrists while the other prepared restraints, high-security magnetic cuffs used only in extreme cases. Keanu took a slow breath as the first officer touched his arm. "Officer," he said calmly, "you're making a mistake." The man hesitated. Keanu's voice carried a gravity few people could resist. But Agent Collins shut the hesitation down with a single glare. "Proceed," she barked. The cuffs clicked around his wrists. The sound echoed through the terminal. A collective gasp rose.
No way. They really cuffed him.
Why would America arrest their own star? Keanu lowered his head slightly, not in defeat, but in deep thought, calculating, analyzing, preparing. He glanced at the reflection in the glass wall beside him and saw something chilling. There were more agents than he realized. More guns, more surveillance devices. This extraction was massive, organized, planned to perfection. They weren't concerned about crowds, cameras, or chaos. They wanted him under control, at any cost. 2 agents moved to either side of him. A third positioned himself behind, guiding him forward. Agent Collins walked ahead like a general leading a high-value prisoner from a battlefield. As they escorted Keanu through the silent terminal, travelers parted like the sea. No one dared step into the agent's path. One little boy whispered as Keanu passed,
Mom, why are they taking John Wick?
Keanu managed a soft, sad smile. If only he knew. A man held his phone close and said into his live stream, "This doesn't look like a normal arrest. These guys look special forces." He was right. This wasn't police. This wasn't protocol. This was Black Ops level. The restricted door shut behind Keanu like the closing of a vault. Heavy, final, absolute. The noise of the chaotic terminal faded instantly, replaced by a cold, sterile silence. The hallway he entered wasn't part of the public airport. It was a secured transport corridor, concrete walls, steel doors, harsh white lights that flickered like a heartbeat. 2 American agents gripped his arms and pushed him forward with controlled force. Their boots thudded against the ground in perfect rhythm, escorting Keanu deeper into the maze-like structure. He kept walking, wrists locked in magnetic cuffs, mind racing. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. This wasn't how legal extradition worked. This wasn't how celebrity arrests worked. This wasn't how anything worked. "You can't just abduct people in foreign airports," Keanu said, trying to keep his voice steady. One of the agents replied, voice cold and flat. "We can when Washington authorizes it." "Washington authorized this?" Keanu asked. The agent didn't answer. Agent Mariah Collins led the group like a silent storm. Her heels echoed sharply, each step a reminder that she was in complete control. "Where are you taking me?" Keanu demanded. She didn't turn around. "You'll be briefed when we arrive." "Arrive where?" Her only response was the hiss of a sealed door unlocking. They pushed him into a dimly lit hangar, a private, heavily restricted airfield attached to the airport. Military vehicles lined the walls, surveillance towers flashed red lights. Thai officials stood by helplessly, clearly overridden by the American presence. At the center stood the ominous jet Keanu had seen earlier through the terminal windows, the matte black aircraft with no markings, built for operations that didn't officially exist. The ramp was already lowered. The engines hummed with low, threatening power. "This is illegal," Keanu said, staring at the jet. "I know what this is. Black site transport." Agent Collins finally turned to face him. Her eyes held no warmth, no empathy, no doubt. "Not illegal," she said quietly. "Classified." She nodded to her team. "Board him." The agents tightened their grip and dragged Keanu up the ramp. Inside, the jet was even more intimidating. Minimalistic, all steel and matte black surfaces, with reinforced seats that looked more like restraints than passenger chairs. They strapped him in, locking his cuffs to the metal frame. He tested the restraints. They didn't move an inch. Agent Collins approached and sat across from him. The door closed behind her with a hydraulic hiss, sealing them inside. Keanu kept his voice controlled. "Tell me why you're doing this!" She folded her hands. "You're connected to an incident involving a stolen classified device," she said calmly. "Something capable of catastrophic damage if mishandled. Someone thinks it does, and they're powerful enough to convince Washington that you need to disappear for questioning." The flight was long, silent, and suffocating. Keanu Reeves remained strapped into the reinforced seat, magnetic cuffs locked in place, every vibration of the jet reminding him he wasn't a passenger. He was cargo. Agent Mariah Collins sat across from him, arms crossed, face unreadable. She didn't sleep. She didn't blink for long. She watched him the way a hawk watches prey, alert, patient, waiting for the slightest shift. Hours passed. No conversation, no explanation. Just the constant hum of the engines cutting through thick clouds as they crossed the Pacific toward a destination Keanu still didn't know. Suddenly, the jet descended. The lights dimmed. Agent Collins straightened. Keanu looked out the window and saw nothing but darkness until faint lights appeared, tiny dots arranged in perfect lines. Not a commercial airport, not a public runway. This was something else. A private landing strip, a government facility, a place most people never knew existed. The jet touched down softly, silently, as if trained for covert landings. Instead of taxiing toward terminals or gates, it veered left, heading deep into a fenced-off area full of shadows. The engines powered down. The cabin door opened. Cold New York midnight air rushed inside, sharp, metallic, carrying a lingering smell of rain. Keanu inhaled it deeply, as if grounding himself before stepping into whatever awaited. Two black SUVs waited on the tarmac, engines running, headlights off. Figures in dark tactical gear stood beside them, faceless silhouettes, visors down, rifles slung across their chests. These weren't regular cops. These were specialists. People who operated in silence and answered only to those higher than law. Agent Collins stood, signaling the restraints. "Unhook him!" The agents unlocked the magnetic cuffs from the chair, but didn't remove them from his wrists. Keanu was pulled to his feet and escorted down the jet's ramp into the freezing night. No cameras, no reporters, no witnesses, just concrete, steel, shadows, and danger. One of the SUV's rear doors opened, and Keanu was pushed inside. The interior was cold, armored, reinforced like a mobile interrogation room. Agent Collins sat beside him. Two operatives sat in front. The doors locked automatically with a heavy metallic click. The SUV pulled away, rolling through a maze of fenced lanes and guard towers. Spotlights followed them, tracking their every turn. Beyond the tall fences, Keanu saw the faint outline of Manhattan's skyline glowing in the distance. He wasn't being taken to a police station, not to a courthouse, not to any location civilians knew. After 15 minutes of driving, the SUV descended down a long ramp into darkness. Automated steel gates parted. The vehicle entered a massive underground structure, lights gradually illuminating concrete walls that seemed to stretch endlessly. A subterranean government fortress, a black site beneath New York City. The SUV stopped. "Move," one of the operatives ordered. Keanu was led through a narrow metallic doorway that hissed open like the entrance to a vault. The room beyond was dim, empty, and suffocatingly cold. A single steel table sat in the center with two chairs, one bolted to the floor, the other free. A lone bulb hung above them, its harsh white light flickering like a dying heartbeat. This wasn't a police interrogation room. This was a black site chamber, built for secrets, not justice. Agent Mariah Collins stood at the doorway, her silhouette framed by the white corridor lights behind her. She gestured toward the bolted chair. "Sit." Keanu didn't move. "You're treating me like a criminal without telling me why." Her jaw clenched. "I said sit." Two operatives behind him stepped forward, hands on their weapons. Keanu raised his cuffed hands slightly in surrender and sat. The chair's cold metal bit into his back. Agent Collins approached slowly, closing the door with a heavy thud that seemed to swallow the entire world outside. She placed a small black case on the table and opened it silently. Inside were files, photos, encrypted drives, and a sleek silver device that looked like it belonged in a military research lab. Keanu watched her carefully. "Let's start with what you know," she said. "I don't know anything," he replied, voice calm but edged with frustration. "You grabbed me out of Thailand without a warrant. That's kidnapping." "This isn't kidnapping," she snapped. "This is containment." She slid a photograph across the table. Keanu looked down. The picture showed a broken government vault, shattered from the inside. Alarms frozen mid-flash. Security doors blown open, a glowing cylindrical device, missing from its holder.
What is this?
Keanu asked.
A classified weaponized prototype, she said, stolen 3 days ago.
She slid another photo toward him. This time it was security footage. Keanu leaned in. His breath caught in his throat. The blurry figure captured walking through a restricted government hallway looked like him. Same build, same walk, same posture, same jacket he owned. But the timestamp was from a day he was filming overseas. Agent Collins watched him like a predator. Convincing, isn't it? That's not me, Keanu said firmly. She nodded. I know. But to the people above me, it doesn't matter. Someone wants you burned. She placed both hands on the table and leaned forward. Whoever stole this device used your identity, your face, your digital signature. Keanu's mind raced. Someone had impersonated him. Someone with resources. Someone who wanted him blamed. Agent Collins dropped her voice to a whisper. There's a faction inside our own system that wants you erased. Quietly. He stared at her. And you, what do you want? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she closed the file, exhaled slowly, and sat opposite him. For the first time, he saw something human in her eyes. Not warmth, but conflict. The convoy raced through the dark edges of New York City, slicing through the cold winter air like a blade. Keanu sat in the back of the armored transport van, wrists bound, ankles locked, and mind running faster than the engine. Outside, sirens echoed faintly, too faintly. Something was wrong. A transfer this huge should have been noisy, chaotic, crawling with uniformed officers, but instead everything felt silent, too silent. Across from him sat Agent Ramirez, the same sharp-eyed Black American officer who had led the arrest in Thailand. Her jaw was clenched, her eyes locked on a tablet screen showing encrypted messages flashing one after another. The blue light flickered across her face, highlighting a look that Keanu recognized instantly, fear disguised as control. The van suddenly slowed. Ramirez's eyes shot up. That's not right, she muttered. A second later, the driver's voice crackled over the intercom, tight, panicked, whispering fast. Ma'am, block ahead, armed men, no NYPD markers. What do we do? Before Ramirez could answer, the world exploded. A blinding flash. Tires screeched. Metal screamed as something slammed into the van from the side. Keanu was thrown against the wall, chains rattling violently. The van tipped, rolled once, then landed hard on its side, leaving a ringing silence that felt unreal. Ramirez kicked the emergency latch, shattered glass spraying everywhere. Move! She shouted, grabbing Keanu even though her shoulder was clearly injured. This isn't NYPD! This is a Black Ops snatch team! Outside, masked men surrounded the wreck, weapons drawn. Their gear was high-tech, silent, deadly. No badges, no insignia. Keanu's heart pounded. Why me? What do they want? Ramirez took a breath. Not steady, but brave. It's you or the evidence you're carrying in your head. Before he could ask more, bullets ripped through the van like lightning. Ramirez shoved Keanu down, shielding him with her own body as sparks flew. Stay low, she snapped. The two crawled out through the broken rear door. Smoke choked the air, headlights flickered through the fog, and the masked team advanced like shadows. Then from far behind, a second set of sirens burst into the night. Real NYPD, real backup, real danger. Ramirez pulled a small device from her jacket, a cutting tool. She slashed through his wrist restraints in seconds. You're free, she said. Now run. Keanu hesitated. And you? She smirked through pain. I'm the reason you're still alive, aren't I? Go! But before either could move, a masked attacker lunged. Ramirez blocked the blow, fighting fiercely, buying time. Keanu grabbed the attacker's dropped baton, swinging instinctively. The strike landed. The man fell. The night erupted into chaos. Police, shadows, gunfire, shouts, sirens, smoke. But right in the center stood Keanu Reeves, breathless, free, and finally understanding. This wasn't an arrest. This was a war for truth, and it had only just begun. The engines of the private government jet hummed like a distant storm as it cut through the clouds over the Pacific Ocean. Keanu Reeves sat strapped into a reinforced seat, not by his own choice, but secured with layers of restraints that looked more suited for transporting a high-risk criminal than an international celebrity. The soft cabin lights reflected off the steel cuffs binding his wrists, but his calm eyes revealed something else: calculation, not fear. Across from him sat Agent Ramirez, the Black American police officer who had led the arrest in Thailand. She stared at him with a mixture of frustration, curiosity, and something he couldn't quite read. Maybe doubt, maybe regret. "Relax," she said without looking up from her tablet. "We land in 7 hours. Then New York takes over." Keanu raised an eyebrow. "Does New York even know you're bringing me?" Her jaw tightened for just a second. A subtle crack in her armor. He caught it. "You're not transporting me through official channels, are you?" he asked quietly. Ramirez didn't answer. Instead, she flicked through encrypted messages with increasing speed. Her fingers trembled, not from fear but urgency. Something was happening behind the scenes, something she didn't want him to see. The cabin light suddenly flickered. A muffled alarm beeped from the cockpit. Ramirez snapped her head toward the door. "What was that?" Keanu asked. Before she could respond, the jet shook violently, once, then again as if hit by something heavy. The cabin lights dimmed, and the engines roared louder than before, struggling against invisible pressure. Ramirez sprang from her seat, knocking her tablet to the floor. "Stay put!" she ordered, then barged into the cockpit. Keanu shifted, straining against his restraints to hear. Inside the cockpit, the pilot's voice cracked with panic. "Ma'am, we're being shadowed. No transponder, no ID. Whoever it is, they're flying military formation." Ramirez cursed under her breath. "Code black? Looks like it." The jet shook again, more violently. Keanu's seatbelt dug into his chest. Whatever was following them wasn't just tailing. It was sending a message. Moments later, Ramirez reappeared, breathing fast. "We might have a problem," she said. Keanu gave her a dry half-smile. "Only one?" She ignored the joke. "Listen to me carefully. Someone doesn't want you to reach American soil." He exhaled slowly. "And I'm guessing it's not the fans." Ramirez leaned closer, her voice low. "There are 2 factions involved. One wants you in New York for interrogation. The other—" Her eyes hardened. "The other wants you gone before you land." The jet lurched downward without warning. The cabin shook violently, oxygen masks dropping from above. A high-pitched alarm screamed through the cabin. Keanu braced himself. "What now?" Ramirez grabbed a radio. "Whatever happens, stay behind me." The shaking stopped as quickly as it started. The plane leveled out, but the tension didn't.